Listen, thank you so much. Grab a seat. Yeah. That's good. They've closed the doors so you couldn't see. Why don't you thank the band? Band have done a great job today. Well done, everybody. Although, just for a minute, I did think I was stuck in a lift. Just this piece of music going round and round. I did think that. And then I thought, oh no, we've gone country and western. Like that last song was definitely, people were like, they didn't know what to do with themselves. So I got a little nervous. The Texan influence was getting a little strong. And busting out some cowboy boots for next time I'm here. So good. Great, really great to be with you. And, a big love from Pastor Glenn and Pastor Sophia. We love this church. We really do. And when people talk about family, it is family for us. It's easy decisions about being together, about hanging out together, and easy to hang out together. Really what happens is I ask Magda the questions. She knows the answers. And then she tells Zibby what the answers are supposed to be and how to say them in English. So that's what really goes on there. In fact, during the first service, Magda leaned over to me and says, sometimes when Zibby's speaking in Polish, I worry he hasn't got the right words. I'm like, okay, that's his actual first language. That's concerning to me. Oh, no, so good to be with you. And to celebrate 14 years. No, you started this. Yeah. A real friendship, you can do this. If it's not real friendship, you can't do this. 14 years, which is just fantastic to see. The church that is today from, the church that we started those years ago is just phenomenal. And some of you have been here for the whole time. And some of you recently joined, which we're so excited about, you being a part of that and all that goes with it. Okay, I'm going to pay attention to the timer. I'm going to run to time. You should be more excited about that than you are. That I promise you. There are miracles and there are miracles. So there's a timer and there's a calendar. So I'm married to Julie. We've been married for 30 years this year. And which I know many of you are looking at me thinking, impossible, you're just not old enough. And we've got 3 children. Our eldest is 27. And she's married now, which was expensive. And married to one of the guys in church. They're a brilliant part of our youth ministry. The middle one's a nurse, Grace. She's a nurse. And actually saved someone's life. Last week, she phoned me up. It was a brilliant phone call. She phoned, Dad. She's just about to qualify. She said, Dad, I literally saved a man's life. I said, oh, okay, tell me about it. She said, I was just in doing the observations, and he's in bed, and his wife sat there, and then the whole thing just went, ee. I was like, awesome. Because you've never seen that. If you're not a professional, you've never seen it except the TV, right? So she's like, oh, yeah. I said, what did you do? She said, I jumped up onto the bed. No, I dropped the bed down. I put his oxygen on, turned it up full, jumped onto the bed and started to massage his heart. And she said, I suddenly realized, I have gone into full mode. And then I turned to the wife. She said, I'm like this. And I turned to the wife and I went, he'll be fine. just banging away. And then, and then she turned to the other one and went, little help in here. So, she comes in, and doctor comes in and takes over. And then she first I said, did you get a selfie? I don't think that's possible. But she's like, one thing to do, to actually do that. So she does that. And then our youngest, he's 21. He's 21, but he's about 6'2.5", 6'3", and he is at our theological college at the moment, studying to become a pastor, because somehow we didn't put him off. So that's us. My wife is a therapist and a counselor, and that probably makes a lot more sense right now. What it essentially means is I don't lie. Because you just, well, one, you shouldn't, right? So let's start with that. But two, I can't get away with it. After 29 years or 31 years of being together now, she fully knows. She says these words, "You've got that look." It feels the same to me as every other look that I have. No, your face has got that look. That look, well, look, you're lying. I'm not lying. But at the moment she says I'm lying, I feel my face change. I don't know. And it starts, and then you start to go red. She says, "You definitely." I don't even know what I'm lying about now. But I feel like I probably am. So yes, you're right. You've caught me. I don't know what you've caught me on, but you've caught me. So Julie does that, and he's doing very well at it. Some quite incredible things happening. So let me try and stick to the topic. Questions is what I do. So questions is what I do. I love asking people questions, not for the sake of catching anybody out, but for the sake of making them think. Because questions make you think. Great questions make you make better decisions about your life. If there's one question that we hear in our house every day our son says this question to us. Let's see if it's the same in any of your homes. What's for dinner? Like, that is the standard question that just comes out. There's a point in the middle of the day. It can be just after he's got up. There's not like a standard time. It's just when it occurs to him. You know, he gets up, he kind of staggers downstairs. In fact, he drove me to the airport on Friday, and I wish I'd sent the picture to someone. He drove me to the airport, and it was an early flight, and he was in, like, shorts with the Muppets on. Like a T-shirt that doesn't fit him, that he's been sleeping in, so it's sort of like about here on him, right? Right? And then he's got his socks on and a pair of sliders. And then he put a winter coat on over the top because it was a bit cold. And he drove me to the airport. And I'm looking at him like, what if we have a crash? Like, seriously, you look an absolute mess. We're going to be going to hospital. Your sister's going to be embarrassed because she's going to have to look after you, and you're in that. We're driving to the airport. This is absolutely true. We're driving to the airport. I am coming here for 3 days, and he says to me, "What's for tea tonight?" I don't know. I'm not even in the same country when it happens. But no, he wanted to know. So that's standard question. But questions change your life. For me, at 18, somebody said to me, "Have you thought about Bible college?" And I hadn't thought about it. And then that changed my life. That was the moment when I asked Julie, "Would you marry me?" That question absolutely changed our lives. We had the moment where Glyn invited us to Manchester. So would you move to Manchester? And we knew it was God speaking, not Glyn, which was really important, right? And we said yes. And it changed our lives. And then there was the moment Julie turned to me and she said, "Hey, how about a third?" Okay then. And totally changed our lives. Questions transform your life. Questions transform your faith. We were building our church building, just to encourage you with this. These guys know this story. We were renting the building. We'd refurbished the building, and the bank had promised us to lend us all the money. And 7 days before we needed the money, the bank pulled out. We needed £2.5 million in 7 days to stay in the building we'd been in for 6 months. So this is the exact conversation that Glyn and I have. Do you know anybody with £2.5 million in cash? So I said, no. So we sat for a minute and I said, "Do you know anybody with £2.5 million in cash?" No. 5 minutes later, I said to him, "Do you know anybody who might know somebody who's got 2.5 million in cash?" That's an interesting question. We wrote a list of 5 names of people we thought might know somebody, right? The first 2 people said, "Don't know anybody," right? The third person said, "I do know someone, but I'm going to ask them, so I'm not telling you the name." Okay, fair enough. Fourth guy said, no, don't know anybody. Final guy said, I do know someone. Let me call them. They make a phone call. Long story short, they make a phone call. This person says to us, come and see me. So we go and see this person on a Monday, and then we need to buy the thing on the Friday. And the Friday is Christmas Eve. So the banks are done then, right? So this is it. So we see him Monday. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, nothing. Thursday, he phones up and says, can I ask you a quick question on your accounts? Answer the question. Nothing. Friday, 5 to 5 in the evening. The bank closes at 5. He phones up and he says, that exactly. He says, I've just deposited the money into your account. Questions transform situations. We're going to read from the Bible before I forget. Mark chapter 10. We're going to read the narrative about a guy called blind Bartimaeus. Here we go. They, and it's Jesus that's talking about, they came to Jericho. And as Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth he began to shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped and said, call him. So they called to the blind man, cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you. Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked him. And the man said, Rabbi, I want to see. Go, said Jesus. Your faith has healed you. Immediately, he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. Do you ever listen to Jesus talk and think to yourself, Jesus, you ask some insensitive questions? He's blind. What do you want me to do for you? Or the man lying by the pool at Bethesda. He's been lying by the pool for decades. Every now and again an angel stirs the water, first person in gets healed. I'd be lying, tottering on the edge. He just needs someone to help him get in the water. Jesus comes to him and says, hey, do you want to get well? I've been lying here for decades, Jesus, hoping that... Jesus seems to ask questions that provoke a response that nobody else seems to have this happen for. You see, Bartimaeus has spent all his life asking people for things. He's a beggar by profession. This is what he does. Every day someone would pick him up or guide him to where he sits just outside the walls of Jericho. So he's trying to get people coming in the morning and going out in the evening. And he sits there and all day he begs. So all day he's asking questions. He's asking people for money. He's asking people for food. He's asking people for items of clothing. He's asking people, and he's learnt how to ask without being a nuisance. Because if he asks too hard, eventually people start going, let's use a different gate. Let's go a different way. Let's avoid this man. He's just difficult. And if he asks too lightly, he doesn't get what he needs in order to survive. The fact that Bartimaeus has lived this long proves that he has found his patter. He has found his phraseology. He's found his language that unlocks from people what he needs for them. He knows how to ask. But then along came Jesus. You see, when Jesus comes into the scenario is completely changed. There's nobody and nothing like Jesus. When Jesus comes into the situation, what the situation looked like before he came in and what the situation looks like now he's come in, they are completely different things. When Mary and Martha and their brother Lazarus has died, Jesus' appearance changes the entire narrative. Anybody else could have come. Anybody alive at the time or alive now could have come, and nothing would have been different. But because Jesus turned up, Mary and Martha got a brother back. Jesus turns up in Bartimaeus' world. And Bartimaeus realizes this: I can ask a better question. You see, it's not just the questions that are asked of us, it's the questions we ask of others that transforms our lives. And it's the questions we ask of Jesus that really transform our lives. I think too often we go to Jesus and we go to Jesus with small things. You know, let's find out. Has anybody ever prayed for a car parking space? Come on, raise your hands. Come on. I'm not gonna call you out. Let's just say, right, we've done it. We've been in the car. We've got to the car. We've got to where we want to park. If you're a person of faith, you've gone as close as possible, right? You know, if you're not quite sure how your faith's feeling, you go a little bit further away where you think there might be spaces, right? And then you say, gee, it's just one space, Lord. I just need one space. I need one person to move right now. If they could move right now. Now, my mum will phone me up, right? My mum will phone me up and she'll phone me and she says, I just wanted to let you know, I went to, the local supermarket and there was a space right outside the door. And I just think the Lord kept it for me. Did he really, Mum? Do you think, the God who holds all of heaven and earth in his hands was going, I'll keep that space for Wendy. She's not incapacitated. She can walk. There's no problem at all. In fact, she lived blooming close to the supermarket in the first place. And it'd do her good to walk there, but that's not important. I'll keep that space for her. So, I want to say, but why actually, oh, praise the Lord, Mum, that's brilliant. Yeah, I talked to Julie. That's what I usually do, right? Now, we sometimes come to God and we bring God the stuff that others could deal with. We bring him things. Lord, I've got this terrible headache. If you could just take it away, that'd be fabulous. And then we take tablets as well, because, edge your bets. Play it both ways. It'll be all right. We do these things without actually thinking to ourselves, do we bring the roots of what we're facing? Or are we just presenting our branches to God and saying, just a little bit of a trim? So this is what I want to put in your mind. What do I really want God to do for me? And what do I really want God to do with me? Let me repeat those two questions because I think they're vital. What do I want God to do for me? And what do I really want God to do with me? Because they're the better questions when it comes to Jesus. I think if we can wrestle with questions like this, we have got to enter into the high-risk strategy space. Because if he answers those questions, we're now responsible to respond to what he says. And it may be that one of his answers is one of those church plants. God, what do you want to do with me? And he talks to you about a place beginning with K. I mean, is that the plan? You're just going to places beginning with K. It's deep, that. It's very deep. But for some of you, you actually saw a name come up today and you went, oh. Now you've got to decide what you do with that. Because the easiest thing is to go, oh, I'm going to pray. When he might be calling you to go. We've got to wrestle with when Jesus steps into the room and everything changes. See, nobody else on that road at Jericho realized what had changed when Jesus walked down that road. There's a crowd, and there's lots of people who want to be in the Jesus show, especially in Bible times. Lots of people. Like, following Jesus was an exciting thing to do. What are you going to do today? Jesus. Well, what's he going to do? I have no idea what he's going to do. But everywhere he goes, people seem to get healed. Miracles seem to happen, and there's free food for everyone. Like, following Jesus is like, it's a day out in ancient Israel. It's a space to go. What are you going to do? I'm going to follow Jesus today. Why? Well, you never know. I was following him the other week, and there was a funeral coming out of town. We were coming in, they were coming out. We all got stuck in the middle. Jesus resolved it all by making the boy better. That's what he did. Come on, we should hang out with Jesus. Oh, it's nice, fun to hang out with you. Why? Because there was this time, like, we were starving. He had been teaching for ages and ages and ages and ages. And we're sat on a hillside, and suddenly his disciples start coming around with food. Nobody ordered. Nobody rode up on a bike and started emptying it out of their rucksack. Suddenly there's food for everyone, and there was enough to take home. It's amazing. People love the Jesus show, but not the Jesus price. See, if you're going to be a follower of Jesus, it's not the show, it's the price. Because the show, he'll put it on for anybody. But the price, you have to choose to pay. The show's in town, Jesus is coming out of town. Whatever happened in Jericho, the Bible doesn't particularly tell us. And as he's coming out of town, Bartimaeus realizes, this is it. This is my one chance for everything to be different. What is the one thing that God could do for you that would mean everything changes? You see, Bartimaeus could have gone to Jesus and gone, Jesus, what I really need is a house, servants, money. And they would have been reasonable requirements for the situation he is in as a blind man. House, somebody would have helped me, and the money to be able to deal with it and not have to beg again. And we would sit there and go, fair. Except you realized that that wasn't the fundamental issue. The root, the fundamental issue was, I need to see. And so he does what nobody else does. He starts to shout. His ask is completely different to everybody else's ask of Jesus. Everyone's trying to get near Jesus. Everyone's trying to be with Jesus. Everyone's trying to be seen with Jesus. But Bartimaeus, he's a little bit desperate. And you know this and I know this. Desperation makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do. What do you need from Jesus today? Because we're in an atmosphere of faith, full of the Holy Spirit. And I am convinced that Jesus asks the same questions and comes with the same power today that he came with then. So Bartimaeus realizes it. So first thing he does is he asks different. Sometimes we read the Bible and we don't read the Bible, we just read the words. We're going through it, especially if you've read it before. And you read it and you just kind of read it. You know, and Mary gave birth in a stable, and you just move on without going, she did what? Like, really? Gee, that's pretty rough. No, that's really rough. Who else was there? Like Joseph? I'm trying to imagine. I've been to 3 births. I'm trying to imagine being the person dealing with it by myself in a stable. No, I have more respect for Joseph after thinking about that than I ever had before. We read it and we don't think through the implications of what actually happened. Like, how long did it take the children of Israel to walk around Jericho in utter silence? Like, how unnerving is it when someone just stares at you in silence? And they did it for a week. A week. I'd have been worked up if I was inside Jericho after a week of this army just marching in silence round and round the... Bartimaeus, he shouts loud enough that the crowd turns on him. He shouts loud enough that no one misses that he's there, because he has a determination and desperation. First thing he did, he asked differently. Secondly, he asked personally. He asked Jesus. He didn't ask anyone. He didn't shout out, hey, can anyone help me? He came to Jesus because he wanted to be clear about who his request was directed to. He wanted the clarity of this is what this is about. It's about you and me, Jesus. It's not about anybody else around me. It's just about you and me. I don't want their attention. I don't want your disciples' attention. You know, I don't want your best friend John's attention. I want your attention, Jesus. And I want to get your attention. He asked differently. He asked personally. And then thirdly, he asked with faith. Because he says, Jesus, Son of David. Like, he is clear. I'm not just asking a traveling preacher. I am asking the Son of God. I am asking Messiah. I have got faith in you because I have realized who you are. Others around might not have picked up on who you are yet, Jesus, but I have been paying attention to everything I have heard, all the rumors and all the stories and all the things that get gossiped about at the gate of the city. I have heard them, and I have determined you are who we have been waiting for. And you are the one who I can ask something of that I can ask no. He came with faith. We've got to come to Jesus with faith. We have got to bring our faith, whether it feels insignificant or you feel like you're full of it. We've just got to bring faith, because faith is what he's looking for. And then he did this. He asked until he got asked back. He just kept asking. Just kept asking. Just kept asking. He just kept asking. He kept going again and again and time after time and pushing in and saying, it didn't, you know. I think sometimes we ask just too casually. Lord, it'd be really nice if you just did this. I'll leave it with you because I don't want to bother you. I don't want to bother you, Jesus, because I know you're busy. Like, you know, saving people and all that. And looking after the world. But we've got to get a desperation that means we just keep going. And I'm just going to keep asking. I'm going to keep calling out. I'm going to keep shouting out. He asked despite the crowd's opinion. Crowds are fickle. I mean, crowds are really fickle. I am a football fan. I support a team many of you will never have heard of. They're called Bolton Wanderers. Any other Bolton Wanderers fans in the room? I was very confident of that. And I go, my son and my son-in-law and one of their friends, we go every week to watch them when we're at home. And the fans around us are fickle. If we're winning, they think they're brilliant. If we're losing, they say things to the players that you shouldn't say to anybody. And definitely don't say in church. Right? They do all of that. And if we're winning, they're cheering the manager. Getting the manager, if the manager to give him a wave. And every now and again the manager, and they all cheer because the manager waved. And then if we're losing, they're waving at the manager. But they're waving a whole different way, right? It's a bizarre thing. Crowds are fickle. People say, yeah, I'm with you, I'll support you, I'll help you. And then they don't. People say it's never going to happen for you. Then it happens for you. And they go, I always knew it would happen for you. And you think to yourself, where were you? This crowd started off with Bartimaeus going, shut up. Stop shouting. Keep your voice. Don't be so excited. Don't be so passionate. Don't make so much noise about something you've not seen. Don't do that. And then when Jesus says, bring him here, they're all like, hey, come on, come on. Come on, I'll carry you there. Come on, I'll help you. I always said he'd come through for you. Listen, people's opinions shouldn't shape what God wants to do with your life. If someone else's opinion is holding you down, holding you back, shaping where you're going to go and what you're going to do, you need to shake them off. Because it's the Lord's opinion that you need. It's his report that matters more than someone else's report. So despite the crowd's opinion, and then he did this, his actions shouted as much as his words did. It's a great moment. Bartimaeus gets to his feet, throws off his beggar's robe, and goes to Jesus. Beggar's robe's an interesting piece item. It is something that identified him clearly as a beggar. If he's wearing this, this is what he does. Whether he's sat begging or not, it says who he is. So the moment that he throws off his robe, he is making a statement of faith. I am never going to need to wear that again because I'm believing something's going to happen over here. Changes everything. Most days of my life, I wear pretty much the same clothing. Just pure convenience. I've got 3 pairs of black jeans, 3 pairs of blue jeans. They're all exactly the same jean. Right? And they're all the same jean, all identical. And then I have 8 black t-shirts that are all identical. It's not like that I'm some time-saving guru. I just can't be bothered, right? So I wear those. And then I really like shoes, so I've got quite a lot of shoes and trainers. And so I'll just, whatever shoes and trainers, because they go with everything, black jeans, blue jeans, you're okay, you get away with most things. And then a jacket, right? And, anything from a denim jacket to a suit jacket. Oh, somewhere in the middle of that. That's going to be me. Because it's your birthday, I put a shirt on, right? Now, thank you very much, right? So that's what I wear. And, sometimes I go places and people go, you've been wearing the same things for 3 days. No, I've not. It just looked the same. So every day, I kind of get dressed and I come downstairs. And this particular day, I've put on a pair of shoes. It was black jeans, black t-shirt, and I put on a jacket. And my wife goes, ooh, you're dressed up. I go, babe, I'm just wearing, shoes, jeans, t-shirt, and a jacket. Yeah. You've dressed up. What are you doing today? I'm doing nothing. I'm just going, are you dressed? Have you got a meeting? No. Have you got a meeting online and you need to be smart at the top and you don't care about the bottom? No. I've got nothing like that. No. Are you going down to London? I'm not going down. No. Well, why are you dressed up? I'm not dressed up. Leave me alone. Right? And then I go through into our lounge room and our middle daughter goes, oh, you're dressed up. I says, babe, I'm just wearing like shoes and jeans and a t-shirt and I happen to have put a jacket on. Yeah, but you're dressed up, aren't you? I'm not dressed up. You've been talking to your mother. Right? And so I leave the house, drive to work, arrive at work. First person I see, I come through the door. First person I see, one of the team says, oh, you're dressed up. I said, I'm not dressed up. I'm literally just wearing what I always wear and doing what I always do. That's what's happening. She goes, no, you're dressed up. It is a strange thing that the addition of one jacket took my normal attire into dressed up. Julie and I, away. We were on our way to a wedding, and on our way to this wedding, we had to go to Decathlon Sport. Do you have Decathlon? Yeah, okay. We had to go. I love Decathlon Sport. All those sports that nobody does. And you can walk around thinking to yourself, I could do that. Yeah. Archery, I could do that. Yeah. Horse riding, that would suit me. Right? And you walk around and then usually you exit carrying something you never wanted. Right? Anyway, we're there this day. We're going to a wedding. I'm properly dressed up. I'm in a suit, shirt and tie, the whole deal. Julie's looking beautiful in a dress with a hat. The whole show. And we're in Decathlon Sport. Now, at worst, we're going to buy a tent. So we're walking around Decathlon Sport, and I begin to notice people just looking at us a little funny. Like, what's wrong with you? So we're walking around, and then you see people sort of turn and look down the aisle at you. So we get this 2-man pop-up tent. And we wander to, pay. So we get to the point where we're paying. And the girl who's paying, she's looking at the tent, looking at me, looking at the tent, looking at me. I'm thinking, I just want to pay and get out of here. And she goes, can I ask you something? I said, sure. She says, who are you? So I think to myself, I can have some fun here. So I'm about to go for this whole thing like, well, we can't really tell you who we are. And my wife just goes, we're going to a wedding. Can we pay for the tent? Yeah, that's what we're doing, yeah. You have got to throw off the historic description of who you were to become who God has called you to be. You've got to be prepared to take off the beggar's robe and leave it behind you before the miracle. Because if you keep all the comfort blankets of safety, there's no faith. We go towards Jesus with a bungee line attached to what was, just in case he doesn't come through. I want to say to you today, Jesus is going to come through for you. He came to blind Bartimaeus and he said to him, what do you want me to do for you? And he comes to you today and he says this simple thing to you. What do you want me to do for you? Bartimaeus went right to the root of the issue. I want to see. I want to see Jesus. And I want to invite you. Because the power and presence of the Holy Spirit is in this room right now. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to stand and we're going to make the space at the front. Because I want to invite you to answer that question from Jesus. What do you really want him to do for you? What is it that sits deep inside you that you maybe don't talk about or don't speak about? What is it that physically you need him to do for you? That if he healed you, everything would change. What is it that you're carrying in terms of your emotion and your mental well-being? Well, you know, if Jesus just reached in and dealt with that scar and dealt with that pain, then I would be in a totally different place. Maybe today you need a job and you're like, Lord, this is what we need. This is what would change our lives. And you find yourself here right now and you're saying, Lord, do I dare trust you that much? Listen, if you've not got the faith, we've got the faith. If you don't know if you can do it, I got to tell you, the Lord can do it. This is not on you. This is on him. C.S. Lewis famously, he said this. It would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We're half-hearted creatures, fooling around with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because they cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday by the sea. We are far too easily pleased. I want love for you today, for your relationship with God to transform. Because instead of asking low, you raise the bar. And you asked him high. When you stand to your feet, come on, across the room, stand to your feet. I'm absolutely convinced that the Holy Spirit is here right now. And he is asking that simple question. What do you want me to do for you today? What do you want me to do? What one thing that if he did this, man, it would change everything for me. See, before the band sings or, we do something as an act of worship, I believe the one we worship wants to do something for us. And I think he wants to answer that question for you. But you've got to bring it to him. I don't think he's looking to... You all right? All right. I don't think he's looking to answer every question in your life. But I do think he's looking for you to bring some faith to say, Lord, if you could do this for me. So while the music is playing, and there's loads of distraction, when distraction like this happens, all I think to myself is Jesus is about to move quite supernaturally. That's okay. Why don't you close your eyes for a minute? Let me come back to my two little questions. What do you want Jesus to do for you? And what do I really want God to do with me? What do you